What's up, guys? It's Josh back with week 16 of SobrietyWoD, and I want to thank you guys for being here again. If this is your first time, welcome. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of pyramids. There's three that I want to cover all together, but we're just going to start with two. All right. Now today's going to be just a little bit different. I'm going to talk straight through and put it all out there. Then you guys are going to go into discussion and then the workout. All right. So the first pyramid that I want to talk about is actually called Maslow's hierarchy of self-development. All right, this is the name if you want to look it up at some point. But it's really interesting pyramid of how we develop as human beings. Now, what's interesting is that looking at this, having gone through the process of getting sober, I realized that I pretty much, it's like being, people talk about like a spiritual experience or like a rebirth. That's really kind of what it is, because somewhere along these lines, we got broken, all right? And something wasn't working out right. And so some people are able to just make adjustments. That's normal, and that's what we're learning to do now, is how we just adjust as we go, versus having to start all the way back over. Essentially, my recovery experience had me just start all the way back over. I kept trying to fix things in the middle and I couldn't do it. So what I want to do is just briefly work through the meaning of these layers, and then we're going to go into the CrossFit prescription pyramid, and then we'll turn you guys loose to have a good discussion, all right? So basically, we start off with our physiological needs, okay? And these are just the things that we need in order to even develop an existence. All right, I'll move the camera back a little bit since you guys are gonna have this on your sheet. And so these include things like breathing, food, water, shelter, clothing, and sleep. These are just our fundamental needs, all right? Now, the next one is the need for safety and security, all right? That's health, employment, property, family, and social stability. So these are sort of the things we need just to exist, and this is gonna be kind of our next level of needs, all right? So health, employment, we need a place to work so that we can continue to provide this. We need property, which includes some of this. We need family, all right, which helps us to continue to have some of this. For family, think of, doesn't have to be, I know immediately pops to your head is immediate family, mom, dad, brothers, sisters, but family's just people that work together like a tribe, or like I always think of like a pride of lions or whatever. It's the group, right? The core group. And then social stability. So this one is the start. Then we build this one after it, all right? And you can think of yourself moving through from childhood to adulthood, or you can think of yourself moving from starting over in recovery up to sobriety, all right? For me, I had to like start over with this. I mean, I gave up everything, lost everything, and went to a place where they provided this. And then I moved into this, and it's really neat how this works out. So let's look at the third one, love and belonging. So now we're starting to talk about some more things that are getting away from like sort of animalistic to things that are kind of unique to human beings, all right? So we're looking at love and belonging. So we need friendship, we need others, right? We've talked about, we did a class on isolation, and how one of the first things we do is start to isolate. We start to pull away from those relationships, whether it be because of guilt or ego or whatever it is, we start to pull away from that. Family, again, this would probably be the deeper relationship with the family. Intimacy, so this would be like a romantic type relationship. Sense of connection, all right? We just need to feel like we belong. We need to feel like we're connected to something outside of ourselves, which is just the opposite of isolation again. So that's when we move into this level of the pyramid. Then we move into self-esteem. And these are things that they all build on each other, but now we're moving into things that give us confidence in ourselves, that we're doing the right thing, we're making the right decisions. Achievements. This is progress or improvement, right? I heard Tony Robbins say one time, and I don't listen to him all the time because it's just so much, but he said basically progress is happiness. As long as we're progressing in a desired direction, we feel a sense of contentment and happiness. Whenever we start pulling away or whenever we're not living up to the ideal is when we start to feel like we're failing. All right, so we need progress in our lives. That's why a lot of people set goals, or just think about where you want to be in the future. That way you have a direction. And then respecting others. So we can see how if we don't develop this, respecting others, we're going to start falling apart here, falling apart here. Ultimately, I mean, this is pretty much as bad as it gets, starting over. This is you in survival here, right? Then we move into self-actualization. So once these things are all structured and stable, we can move into what actually makes us like spiritual beings, what really separates us from nature as far as our inner life, our consciousness, all right? We get into things like morality, creativity, spirituality is not written here, but I would put that on here. Spontaneity, the ability to come up with stuff. Acceptance. That's us being accepted. That's us accepting ourselves as well. Experiencing purpose. So those things all kind of go together. It's having that goal, knowing what you're here for, knowing where you fit in. And then meaning, purpose, and inner potential is being aware of what you possibly could do, of really who you are. Once these things are met, these things are the things that we start working on. If these things are jacked up though, it's really hard to be messing around up here, okay? And typically, that's kind of what, for me, meetings and sponsorship and all that stuff is all about, is always looking down here and seeing what's messed up. Because once I get into that fear and resentment stuff, usually it's something affecting one of these, I can no longer do this. And it's important for me to be able to stay up here. This is where my sobriety lives, all right? Up toward the top of the pyramid. So that's Maslow's hierarchy. There's so much stuff on this. You guys can look up anything that you want to, but that's just a brief introduction, all right? So I look at sobriety as kind of starting back up here and working my way back to here. Health exists up here. No one keeps all these in perfect alignment because we don't have control of that. But we learn how to best do it and how to operate in a way that ensures that these stay healthy. Just like a pyramid, if the base is weak, the tip's gonna fall, right? And we've probably all experienced the crumbling of our bases before. So now let's just briefly look at the CrossFit fitness pyramid. And it's not that these two have to do directly with each other, although they kind of do. A pyramid is just a great way to say, here's a list of things, and here's a list of their importance, all right, in a visual way. So with CrossFit, we have all right, our base, the base of our fitness pyramid is, nobody likes to hear it, bottom line. Now we're gonna do nutrition on its own next week. And we're gonna talk about sobriety with it, how what we put into ourselves affects ourselves, all right? I don't wanna get into it today. Next thing is what we call Metcon. This is your engine, which is just your ability to keep going, okay? Think about your car. If the engine's not running right, doesn't matter how good your radio is, doesn't matter how, how nice your stuff is. If your engine's not running, your car's pretty much useless. In order for us to get better at the things that are coming, we want to develop this first. And that's also called conditioning. So this word Metcon also actually stands for metabolic conditioning. It's just your ability to go, your ability to not quit. You know, when you first start this stuff, you do like a minute and a half, and you feel like you're done, you hit the wall. We want to get you to where you can do 10 minutes without stopping, 15, 20 minutes without stopping, so we can start working harder on the next things coming, all right? The third one is, and I'm gonna have to explain this a little bit, because it's not doing pirouettes on, and it's hard to spell and talk, not doing pirouettes on uneven bars and all that stuff you see in the Olympics, although it could be that. Gymnastics essentially is body control. through space. And then we could get into some cool through space and time, through space-time, the fabric. Anyway. After gymnastics, so the purpose of gymnastics, now that I have an engine and I can move without stopping, next thing I need to develop is the ability to control my own body as I'm moving. So gymnastics for us represents any movement, any action that doesn't require an external implement, all right? So if I'm not holding anything, have something on my back, have something strapped around my waist, if there's no external object, I'm doing gymnastics. So when you guys do squats, lunges, box jumps, pull-ups, push-ups, handstand push-ups, all that stuff is gymnastics for us, all right? The reason why we need gymnastics and we need to be able to control our body before we start grabbing on stuff, okay? A lot of times in the gym, guys want to just pick up the heaviest weights, and it's like, dude, if you can't bend over properly, you definitely don't need to be bending over with 400 pounds in your hands. Makes sense? We got to get the shape right. We got to learn how to create these shapes correctly and then control them with resistance, and then we can start adding external objects. So the next one is external objects. Once we have this down, we're going to throw a barbell in the equation. We're going to throw a dumbbell in the equation. We're going to throw a wall ball in the equation, and we're going to call this, oh shit, weightlifting, okay? And this is just going to mean external object. Now this makes sense. If I'm going to manipulate an external object, I'm going to move it around, I have to be able to move myself however I need to move that object around. All right, so these just develop upon each other. And then at the very top of this pyramid, we have life. Okay, and then the CrossFit pyramid actually adds for you athletes, sport. So this would be the tip of the self-actualization of fitness, because this demands all these things. So we see how everything is built. If you fuel correctly, you're going to very much more readily develop this metabolic engine. If you're eating garbage, this is going to suffer, okay? And the way this works, the same way Maslow's pyramid works, everything above suffers from the breakdown of anything below, and vice versa, everything above is strengthened by the strength of the things below. So it always tells us this is like our fallback plan, okay? So first we want to look at this. How are you eating? I'm not getting where I want to be. I'm not strong enough. I'm not fast. I'm not getting better. How are you eating? Second is your metabolic engine. This is conditioning, and this comes from consistency. If you just show up every day and do your workout, that's going to develop, all right? So this comes from consistency. Gymnastics, if you don't have your nutrition right, if you don't have your engine, you're not going to be able to even practice gymnastics, right? How many box jumps can I do if I'm out of breath and exhausted after 3? It's really hard to get better at something if I can only do 3 of them. Does that make sense? So I need to fuel well, build this engine so I can start doing these gymnastics, so I can start working on my pull-ups and learning how to manipulate my body throughout space. Once we got all this down, we can start with the external object, all right? So we'll throw something in your hands and we'll learn how to move our body, control our body for a significant duration, healthily, with recovery from nutrition. And then lastly, we'll get to life and sport. So if you think about sports, sports is really just having an engine, being able to control your body, and then putting an external object in the mix, right? I mean, besides running, I think most sports have an external object, whether it's a stick and a puck, a ball, a bat. What else they got? Whatever, like a lacrosse thing that they use. Now you have some sports that don't require external objects, and those are primarily like your endurance activities. So like your running, biking, well, biking, you're not actually carrying an external object, but running, biking, swimming, things like that. And those are the things we throw in right here. So that's how we develop this. And when we think about life, think about really any activity you do in life. It requires all of these to some extent, all right? Any kind of work you do, any kind of situation you find yourself in where you're gonna use your fitness, it's gonna require all of these things the majority of the time, okay? Our goal is, some of our goals is to be the best we can be at sport, but some of our goals is just the best we can be at life, right? And they actually, one of the brilliant things about CrossFit is the realization that they go hand in hand. So, next week we'll talk about nutrition, and then we're gonna talk about the wellness pyramid, and we're gonna talk about how this sport and people who do sports, which we call athletes, are actually some of the healthiest people in the world. And if our goal is wellness and health, then, and athletes are the wellest and healthiest, tend to be the wellest, and I'm not talking about poker athletes, tend to be the more well and the healthiest people in the world, then it stands to reason that we should be trying to achieve that. For your workout today, we're gonna do 2 rounds, and I have something I want you to think about during this workout. We're gonna do 2 rounds of 200-meter farmer's carry with dumbbells, the heaviest ones you can carry. You're gonna come in and do 20 lunges with your dumbbells, and then you're gonna do 20 dumbbell burpees. So all it's just like a regular burpee, you just put the dumbbells down while you do your burpee, okay? Then you're immediately gonna do all that again, but you're gonna leave the weight behind. So you're gonna do a 200-meter run, 20 lunges, 20 burpees. What I want you to think about while you're doing this workout, because you get a lot of time to kind of be in your head when you're doing these workouts, and what I want you to think about is how much easier everything is once you set those weights down. How much easier that second round is, even though you're tired, fatigued, and exhausted. How much lighter it feels, how much freer it feels, how much better it feels. And I want you to think about that whenever you do your SobrietyWoD, because all I want to know is if there's some things in your life that you're holding on to that might be keeping you from performing at your potential, from reaching the max of your abilities, and from experiencing the ultimate freedom of sobriety. So you guys have a great discussion, enjoy yourselves. Thank you so much for being with us and helping us build this thing, and we'll see you next week.